Good morning, dear students. Welcome to our today's lecture of economics, Unit 6, called Market Structure of Production Resources. According to the plan of our today's lesson, we have the next topics. First, the main characteristics of the market of production resources. Second, labor market and wages or salaries. Topic 3, market of material, factors of production. We have some additional topics. I please you pay attention. It's concerned the concept of demand and supply of production resources. The next question is market equilibrium, and the next we will say something about the concept of employment. Now, usually we have some keywords and key terms. It's concerned the market concept, market structure, means or factors of production, productive resources, land, labor, capital, information, structure, demand, goods and services, and so on. I please you to take or to pay attention to the aims, objectives, and the learning outcome of our today's unit. So, according to the references, we have the same books, Introduction to Economics and Principle of Economics. Now, according to our today first question, main characteristics of market of production resources. In our two last lecture, we came to develop this concept, the concept of means of production or the concept of factors of production. Now, the question is about product and resources markets. What is market? We already said about it. Market is the places where demand meets supply. That's the main concrete definition of market. But today we are going to study the concept of market of production resources or resources market. We know very well in any market system we have two very important concepts: concept of demand and the concept of supply. And we know that we have a flow of finance or flow of money from any person, household, to market, from market to enterprises, any business entities, and from business entities to household. Now, we have some types or kinds of exchange between people to enterprises, okay? And we have a market of a kind of element for the relation between people and enterprises. But now, I please you to pay attention to the next types of markets. First, that is product markets and resources markets. The first types concern first market for example, private schools, and next market for dental services. You have future doctors must know something about these types of market. Next, market of airline travel, market for football merchandise, and so on and so on. According to the resources markets, that is the places where business entities buy the productive resources they need to make their products. Mainly, the market for teachers, the market for dentists, the market for pilots, and the market for football player, and so on. Now, we show two types of first products markets and resources markets. We must know that in the resources markets, households supply productive resources, mainly factors or production, we call land, capital, and labor, for example. Now, according to any enterprises, the enterprises buy productive resources from households. In exchange for their productive resources, farms and enterprises pay money to households. This money must be or can be called first wages. In any way we say salaries. That's the amount of money, a payment for labor. Okay, we pay salary for labor. Now, rent. A rent is a payment for land. Okay, for a piece of land you take to do your, for example, your productive activities. We have interest. Interest, we can say that is a payment for capital. For example, if you go to the bank, you take bank money, a loan, okay? You must pay interest, you call, okay? Interest. In anywhere, in any case, if you have investment, you take your money and you invest in any, for example, business activities. At the end of period, mainly 1 year, you can get interest, okay? And we have another concept, a concept of profit. A profit is a payment for entrepreneurship. In our last lecture, we came to talk about it, okay? When we study the question of entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. Now, in product markets, we have two very important concepts. That's a concept of consumer and a concept of, we said, buyer, okay? Or producer, if you want. Who is consumer? Consumer is a person who buy goods and services from producer, okay? From producer. That's the same as household, okay? Household uses their money or their income, go to the market, buy some commodity, we said, goods or services. Expenditures by household become a revenue for farms or from enterprises. You see, any people get a salary, you go to the market to pay something. The money he use is we call expenditures. Expenditures become a revenue for, if we can say, we become income for producer, for seller, okay, for seller. Now, enterprises seek to maximize their profit. You want to make more and more profit. The profit must be maximized, okay, as well as it's possible. But the person, individual, seeks or needs to maximize their utility. Okay, when they're going to use goods and services, they want to keep the utility as more, as good, okay, as that is possible. Now, I please you now to pay attention to what we call circular flow. Circular flow. That is a cycle, okay? A cycle of money or commodity from households to market, from market to farms, from enterprises to market, and from market to people to household. Household have money. With this money, they buy goods and services. We said they received goods and services from product market. Okay, we have some exchange, money and product. Household give money and received products we call commodity, goods and services from market. And the amount of money they give for the reception of goods and services we call expenditures. You see, first element, that among a quantity of goods and services they received from market and will give a sum of money we call expenditures. That's the first, we can say, the first types of relation between households and product market. A second element is the relationship between a product market and enterprises. Enterprises use input, raw materials, people who came for a job, we call productive resources, and at the end produce outputs. They send to product market to sell, and at the end get a revenue. That's the same. The expenditures become the revenue from, okay, for enterprises. That's the second types of relationship now between enterprises and product market. A third, that's the relationship between enterprises and resource market. Enterprises seek to get or needs for factors of production, okay? You get factor of production. All factor of production we can call input, that is input, okay? And the money they pay for to get resources we call cost of production. Cost for salary, cost for raw material, cost for energy, cost for anywhere, for transport, and so on and so on. We have costs of production. We will we can say that is total cost, total production cost. Now, and we have a relationship between resource market and households. We have wages or salaries, rent, interest from market of resources to household, and household can give to enterprise, land, that is factors, labor, capital, and so on. Briefly, we said about the flow. You can say money flow or circular money flow, resources flow, and goods and services flow. That is a cycle, okay? A cycle we call circular flow. It's very important to understand the types of relationship between people, markets, product markets, enterprises, resource market, and people. That is a closed circular flow. Now, let's to say something about the payment any entities get when we are going to work in a resources market. Okay? In exchange, for land, for labor, for capital, and entrepreneurship, households received money, receives payments. The payments for the 4 productive resources we mentioned, land, okay, wages, capital, and profit, we call for land, that's the rent, okay, rent. Household give land, they received rent, okay. The rent is a payment for land, A second is salaries, we call wages. Wages is the money, the payment for labor. Any person will participate to the job activities at the end of month, for example, get salaries. Okay, that is wages. We can say it a payment for labor. And 3 is a payment for capital. Any person who have amount of money, who invested or who take some or who do some activities, mainly business activities, must get money, must get a payment. This payment, that's a payment for capital, that's invest or interest, you can say that, okay? Invest payment or invest interest. Now, profit. What is profit? Yesterday we told about it, okay? In our last lecture, we told about profit. We said that the profit, that's the income any entrepreneur get after the productive period, when you have income minus total cost. The amount of money we get, that is profit. That is a kind of payment we call payment for entrepreneurship. Okay? We have four types of payments. Payments for land, that's rent. Payment for labor, that's wages. Payment for capital, that is interest. And payment for entrepreneurship, we call profit. Okay? Now, next. That we know that any entrepreneur activities, any entrepreneur activities, any productive activities have a result. These results concern first outputs we get after we use inputs. After we use inputs. Now, in our time, all inputs is called resources. Okay? Let's imagine a city mainly with two types of street food, for example, hot dogs or any other thing like that. Okay? Okay. The question is, how would price assure that the rate among of those two foods is produced based on consumer demand? You see, let's take two parameters. Let's take two parameters. First, the price of hot dog, mainly 2 rupees or $2, not important. And the second, kebab, for example, the price is about mainly $3 or 3 rupees. Okay, that is an example. Now, before we continue with these practical cases, I want to show you a very interesting process. You see, let's go step by step to see what I want to say to show you exactly about this example. Now, to produce hot dog or kebab, for example, or any commodity, we use resources. Okay, we use input. We said we want to use productive resources. Now we call only input. Input, that's the same. Input, that's the resources we use to begin the productive process. Okay, it's the same. We can say productive or means of production or factors of production. Now we call it input. Okay, input. First input, that is capital. We must go to the market of capital to get capital. Financial market. We can go to the bank, okay, for loan, we get money, okay. We can go to any other market, capital market, for capital. Okay, that's the very first. That's the first input you can say it. The second, we can go to buy a land, okay, a piece of land. We must go to the land market. That is our second input. 3, labor. We need for people who come for a job. Okay, we must go to the labor market. That is our another input. We have many types of inputs. Information inputs, a market of raw material, that is another input, etc. Okay, now market of inputs we call economic resources and market of economic goods. We can say only economic market or market of inputs market. But now we can say it concerning inputs market. We have a market for real resources and goods. Real resources. Any inputs we have a material forms. We see, for example, people, for example, capital, money, for example, that is real, okay? That is a real resources and goods. And information, for example, information, that is non-real resources, okay? You see, non-material resources, you can see. Now, according to markets for real resources and goods, we have consumer, okay, goods market, consumer goods market. And the next, resources market or markets of factor of production, we call market of inputs market. We have three: labor market, land market, investment goods market. And the market we call financial market or credit market that concern bank system and any institution, okay, who can give money as capital to enterprises. Now, the market of borrowed funds, for example, in the United States, that is a very, very important type of market. Stock and bonds market, okay? Investment market, funds market, and bonds market, we call capital market or capital market. Three elements must be considered: investment market, funds market, and bonds market. Okay? We have a real resources market and good and non-real resources or market for non-real or non-material resources. Okay, due to the fact that we are going to say about market, that you know that market is the relationship between demand and supply, or we can say that the places where demand meets supply, the definition is the same. Okay? That is the meet of supply and demand for production resources. Now, the demand for resources is represented by enterprises for the production of goods that will then be sold. And the proposals came mainly from agent, okay, from agent who own land, labor, capital, okay, we say from households. Households proposed we call physical capital, okay? We call physical capital. It may be a non-physical capital too, okay? For example, doctors, work of doctors, job of professor, okay? That is non-physical capital. But the contribution to the productive process must be the use of first physical capital and now, okay, and now non-physical capital from household, okay, from household. A next element is the demand for inputs. Now, any enterprises, okay, need to get inputs. That's the reason why people or household sell their physical or non-physical capacities. Now, it's very important now to note due to the fact that we are going to say about market, the important places of the equilibrium in any markets. In our previously studied material, we said that market is the relationship, okay? The relationship, an equilibrium, okay? When we have a quantity of demand found, a quantity of supply, we put the equal sign, okay? Demand equal supply. The concept is the same. Now you see the equilibrium in the market. That is not in any market, okay? In any market. For now, the equilibrium in the market of resources is eventually the condition when demand equal supply. But I please your attention. You see MRP equal MRC. Marginal revenue products must be equal the marginal revenue cost is very important. Okay, I please you to note this equally for to take the equilibrium point. Okay, now we have marginal revenue products must be equal marginal revenue costs. That is the first very important condition for any market. And the point of equilibrium, okay, when you have MRP equal MRC equal P. P is a price of market. Now, the question is to know what will be the price market. That's our question. The price market must be at the point where marginal resources or marginal revenue product equal marginal resources cost. Okay, it's very important to show this equally. Okay, that is a market condition. That is a condition of equilibrium in the market of resources. Okay, due to the fact we said about this condition, let's to see two parameters for the optimum of market of resources. We know for any enterprises, costs must be small, as good as is possible. Okay, we said cost must be minimum cost. For what? For a maximum of profit. That's very important. We want to get a big profit. Now we must resolve two questions. First question, to make as well as it's possible cost minimum, and as well as we can, okay, to do that our profit became maximum. The increase of our profit needs the minimum of cost. Total cost must be minimum as well as it's possible. Okay? Now, we already did about the equation. I please you to see the example when the marginal products of labor, okay, divided by the price of labor, that is the salary, okay, should be equal to the marginal product of capital, okay, divided by price of capital. You see, it's a very important formula. I please you to take a note. I please you to take a note. Okay? I please you to take a note. Now, all equilibrium situation must be found in this condition. Okay? We take the marginal products of labor, we divide by the price of labor, that is a price of 1 unit of labor, and the marginal product of capital, we divide by the price of capital. Okay? We found the condition of equilibrium. That's optimal, okay? Optimal condition for enterprise activities. Yes, when we came to found this condition, we can say that the market of production resources appear in two main types. Market of production resources in the condition of perfect competition. That is the first. When the market of production resources in the condition of perfect competition. We remember perfect competition, that's a kind of market where we have many quantity of seller and many quantity of buyers. Perfect competition. Second, the market of productive resources in the condition of imperfect competition. Imperfect competition, we have some element of monopoly or monopsony. You remember what is monopoly? A monopoly is a type of market where we find only one seller or one producer. That's a monopoly. Okay? Perfect competition, that's the place where we find many sellers and many buyers. Okay? A lot of buyers. Okay? Now, we can see the condition of demand, okay, or for resources in the condition of perfect competition. In this condition, I please you see, okay, the curve or the line of marginal resources cost is a parallel. You see? Is a parallel. And the marginal revenue product is a curve. This one. You see? And the relationship between the above curve is at the equilibrium point we call E. You see? That is the condition of equilibrium in the perfect competition market. Now, any enterprises have a demand for production resources. We can note that in the condition of perfect competition, we show the curve of demand and the curve of supply. The curve of supply is the parallel line, okay, seems to be the cost line. Marginal revenue and cost, okay? Now, the choice of production option labor of capital. For the long term, we have, let's to tell you that we have a long-term period, a short-term period, and average period. But now I want to show you first, due to the time we have, only the period, long period term. In a long period term, I please you to see that, okay, we must have this relation, a lower, the lower the cost of labor compared to the cost of capital, the more profitable the use of labor, and enterprises will tend to use more labor than capital. You see, if we have more capital, we must use less quantity of labor, and the inverse. If enterprise must use more people, the amount of capital must be less and less. Income factors. Now we can say income from what? From activities. From what? For wealth, property. For what? For labor, for entrepreneurship, that is salary, entrepreneurial income, and productive resources. Now we came to see the main characteristic of market or capital market, land market, and any other types of market we have when we are going to say about market of factors of production. Now, let's we continue our lecture with the question of topic number 2.